Welcome everyone to the second video in the series of looking into the Python codebook, and we're in chapter 1, and previously we have looked into chapter 1's 1.1 and 1.2. Now today we're going to look into chapter 1's 1.3. Let's go to 1.3. Now the question is, let's say you have an array of a certain length that you know. You want to get the last 9 digits of that number. You want to keep a limited history of that array. Now, how would you do that? Now, if you look at the code here, let's say A has a range of 17, and A is the array that has stored from the digit of 0 to digit of 16. So the length is 17. Now, if we want to print the last 9 digits of the array, we just simply put print A, and the starting number would be -9 and semicolon, and we just leave it there and close the square bracket. What this does is it prints the last 9 digits of the array. It is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 as it goes on. Now, if we want to reverse that, what would we do? We would just simply put this in the code. Instead of putting -9 at the beginning, we just keep the beginning empty of the square bracket, then semicolons -10, semicolons -1. What -1 means is that it will be printed in a reverse order. So we would go from 16 to the -10th index of the code. So let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like this, but we would begin from the top to the end. Now, it would look something like this. Let's say we want to remove the last 3 elements from the list. How would we do that? We would just simply pop out this, put -3 over here, and we would get the last 3 digits of the array. Now let's look at this in our VS Code. A is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. We just remove the 0. Okay. Now if we just simply put print A -3 semicolon, we get 8, 9, 10, the last 3 digits of that. Now I want to print that in reverse order. Now when we print out A, in the square brackets we put -3 semicolons, keep the middle part empty, then semicolons and -1. It would print the array in reverse order. But if we look at the results, it says 8. It starts from 8 and ends at 1. What this means is that it has, over here, the 10th index is -1, 9 has an index of -2. So we started from the -3 index, which is 8, and we have gone in reverse order, and it would keep on printing it until it reaches the head of the list or the array. Now we could also do this, and what this would do is only print out whatever item is in the index of -1 and -2, and it would end in -3. Now, since we're in the matter of having a limited history of the items that we are using and keeping only the last nth items of a list, we could also use something called DQ. It is part of the collections family. How would we use it? Basically, we just have to first import collections. Well, from collections we would import DQ. Okay, now what DQ allows us to do is keep a limited history of an array. So when we want to enter a new item in that list, the last the very first one that was entered in the list would be gone from the list. For example, let's say we have a list called L, which has a DQ max length of 3. What this means is that this L could only store up to 3 items in it, in the array, the L array. So let's say L dot append 1, L dot append 2, and lastly L dot append 3. Now if we print out L, we will get sorry. So basically, it's the L is a list which has a max length of 3. But when we want to append a new item in there, let's say we want to append 4 into that list, we would put L dot append 4. Right? Oh, my bad. It's max. Yeah. Okay. Print L. See, over here, this part of the code, when we have a max length of 3 in that LDQ. So when we append 1, 2, 3 and print L, we get 1, 2, 3, and it also shows that the max length of that DQ is 3. Now what would happen if we want to append 4 into that? Now let's say L dot append 4, and then we want to print it, print L. As you can see that the first 3, 1, 2, 3 is appended into the list, and when we print it, we get DQ123, which has a max length of 3. Now, when we appended 4 into the list, what happened was it has removed the very first item that was inserted into the list, which was 1, and 2 went into 1's place, 3 went into 2's place, and 4 went into the 3's place. Now, when we print out after we appended 4, we would get is DQ234, and which has a max length of 3. Now, one of the benefits of using DQ is that we could append any item at any position. Mainly, we want to, if we want to append something to the left, we couldn't use that in arrays. If I show you an example, let's say A is an array which is 1, 2, 3, and we want to append 4 to it, but we want to append 4 here rather than appending 4 here. So let's say we want to append that. If we put append a dot append 4, and we want to append it to the left, if we run the code, we would get an array, because this doesn't have something called append left. It could only append, which means it could only add items to the end of the list. So what would happen if we use an DQ? Now let's say A is a DQ which doesn't have any max length. Now we want to append Q A dot append 1, A dot append, let's say 2 and 3, but we want to append 4 in left side of the DQ. Let's first look at the till 1, 2, 3, and at the end let's look at what would happen if we append left. Okay, Now, if we run the code, we could see that in the first print, when we are appending to the D cube, we see 1, 2, and 3. But at the last, when we are append left 4, we could see that 4 is it goes to the beginning of the list and it is followed by 1, 2, 3, which isn't possible when we are working with arrays. Now, the next topic I want to look over is finding the largest or the smallest item in a list. There's two ways to find the largest and the smallest number in a list. One, it's first we could import an heap queue, which would use in largest and in smallest functions to find out the largest and the smallest in the list. And next, the second method is using min and max function. Now let's say I have, let's first clear it up. Okay, now I have a random array. Let's say I am putting random numbers. Okay, these are the random numbers in an array. Now let's say I want to find the max number in that array and the smallest one in that array. First, let's look at the first method where we use heap queue. Import heap queue. We could make it smaller, making from heap queue import in largest and in smallest. Okay. Now let's say we have this array and we want to print out what is the largest number in that list and what is the smallest number in that list. We could just simply put in largest. In the brackets we just pass on the list, and next we could just put in smallest and pass on the list, and we could see that if we run the code, oh yeah, we would need to also mention how many of the smallest or the highest numbers we want from the list. Let's say I want the highest number and the smallest number. Only single numbers, okay. We get 100 and minus 4, but if we look at the list, we can see that the lowest number here is minus 4 and the highest number is 100. Using this code, we could just simply, let's say our problem asks us to print out the 3 largest or the 3 smallest number in a list. We can just simply put 3 in the beginning and 3 at the beginning of the in largest and the in smallest function. And if we run the code, we can see that we get the 3 largest numbers in the list and the 3 smallest number in the list. And the second method that was mentioned was using min and max function, which is a much easier way to print out the max and the min of the list, but we could only print out the max, the one single number from the list and the lowest number of the list, not get the lowest 3 or the highest 3. Let me just write this max of s and simply print min of s. Now if I run this code, we can see that we only got one number, 100 and minus 4. Now let's say I want to get the 2 max and 2 min. We can't get that because as mentioned before, the max and min function doesn't allow us to get the highest 3 or highest 2 numbers or lowest 2 or lowest 3 numbers. It would just only show the highest number or the lowest number in the list. Now this is just a flowchart of how the max and min functions work. You could just pause the video and look into the flowchart if you're interested. Next, let's talk about implementing a priority queue. Now, what is a priority queue? Let's say you're in a line at the doctor's office. Now, let's say you only have a small scratch in your arm, but while someone else is heavily injured or someone is likely injured and you just have a small scar. What who would be more preferred by the doctor to check up first? Obviously, the person who needs his attention the most. So priority queue is basically that. Queue is an abstract data structure where each data value in a queue has a certain priority. The higher the priority, the uh, lowest chance of that being deleted or being dequeued. The lowest priority would be dequeued very first. And if two elements have the same priority, they would be served according to the serial that they have gone into the queue. So let's look this into a code. Let's say I want to import hit queue. I want to import hit queue, and queue is a priority queue. Priority queue. Okay. Now, when we want to push into this queue, we would have to put queue push while mentioning the item that is being pushed into. Let's say this is my, and the priority that it has, I'm giving my the priority of 1. Now let's push something else. It's queue push item Angela. Angela has a priority of 2. So over here, Angela has a high priority than Mike. So when we would pop the queue, the first item that would be popped out would be Mike instead of Angela, because Angela has a high priority. But let's say we have pushed uh, another item. Let's say this is Jim, and he has the same priority as Angela. So when we want to, let's say we have already popped out this, we have uh, we have already popped once. So in the list, there was Mike and Angela, then we popped out, so there's only Angela there. And now we have pushed another item, which is Jim, which has the same priority number as Angela. So now when we would pop an item, the item that would be popped is Angela, since she was the first, she was inserted into the queue before Jim. Because of that, even though they have the same priority, Angela would be popped out first. That would be all for this part of the lecture. We have covered from 1.3 to 1.5, and hopefully you'll be here for the next video. Thank you.